has a cell phone, please turn it off as far as making any noise. Thank you. We are ready, Ms. Emily?
We're ready.
Good evening, this is the May 25th meeting of the Zoning Board of Appeals. We have a couple of determinations to read. First up is appeal number 17-15, Karen Caputo. The variance sought will not create an undesirable change in the character of the neighborhood because the homes in the area have similar fences. The alternative proposed by the homeowner to install large, dense evergreens which would block the views. The applicant proposed to soften the concrete by the concrete retaining wall by adding landscaping. The benefits sought by the applicant cannot be achieved by some other method that is feasible because of the 3.8-foot concrete retaining walls imposed on the homeowner by the health department, creating the necessity of a fence to prevent a fallover. The request of the variance is not substantial. Had the retaining wall not been required by the health department, a 4-foot fence in the front yard is permitted by code. The requested variance will not have an adverse impact on physical or environmental conditions in the neighborhood. The alleged difficulty that the property owner has experienced is not self-created because the 3.8-foot retaining wall was required by the health department, which created a fallover hazard, which had to be mitigated by the homeowner at the homeowner's expense. Based on the following, the variance is granted. And if granted, the subject to the following conditions based upon the evidence presented will minimize the adverse impacts that the variance will have on the community or district as identified before. The landscaping proposed by the applicant must be installed. The landscaping must cover the retaining wall beneath the fence approved wherein and must be evergreen. Do we hear a motion?
So moved. Second.
Mr. Barnes?
Aye.
Mrs. Worthington?
Aye.
Mr. Whitmire?
Aye.
And I vote aye, so your appeal has been granted. Second appeal, number 17-28, Jason and Rebecca Hubbard. The variance sought will not create an undesirable change in the character of the neighborhood because the neighborhood is predominantly a farming community of which a farm stand fits within the character. The benefits sought by the applicant cannot be achieved by some other method that is feasible because there is no road frontage available in the agricultural parcel. The farm stand is located on a parcel with road frontage on Meeting House Creek Road, which is the most liable placement. The requested variance is not substantial. The requested variance will not have an adverse impact on the physical and environmental conditions of the neighborhood. The alleged difficulty that the property owner's experience was not self-created because no road frontage is available on the agricultural parcel. Conditions: the applicant must provide a current lease for the adjacent farm property, the north owned by Paul Reeve, which the lease shall be included in a term of minimum of 2 years, including a minimum of 2 acres, which the area shall be described in the lease, and a drawing of the lease attached to that and made part of the lease. For the town code, firewood may be sold as 40% of the total farm stand total offering, since firewood is not an agricultural product. Accordingly, if the farm stand is not open and offering farm products, no firewood or any other product may be sold. Applicant may provide a copy of the deed to the property adjacent to the subject property. Applicant shall provide updated copies of the lease described in condition 1 above. Should the applicant's lease expire, it shall not be renewed. The approvals contained herein shall be null and void, and the farm stand shall not be permitted upon the subject property. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Barnes?
Aye.
Ms. Worthington?
Aye.
Mr. Whitmire?
Aye.
And I vote aye. Number 3, appeal number 17-13, Patricia Kalmar. Yep.
Next, we have appeal number 2017-013 for Patricia Kalmar of 6 Smugglers Path, Jamesport, for variances to and/or relief from the provisions of Chapter 301, Section 9, subsection A16, where the deck exists 24.1 feet from the side street line where the minimum required is 50 feet.
That be the thing to do? If you kindly raise your right hand, you swear to tell the truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
Kindly state your name and your address.
I'm Terrence Connolly, 12 Pinecone Court, Mauritius, New York, permit man. We're here tonight to request a variance to maintain a deck that is 24.1 feet from the side yard where 50 feet is required. We're seeking relief from provisions of Chapter 301, Section 9, subsection A16 for the property located at 6 Smugglers Path, Jamesport, New York. He's a dentist, Mr. Kalmar. He's got a wonderful daughter and a wonderful son-in-law. And as a gift to Mr. Kalmar, the son-in-law, who is a contractor, built him a very small balcony because he had said that he wanted one off of his master bedroom. He had no idea of the problems that were going to occur because of a little 8 by 4 balcony that he built. So we're here tonight to ask for a variance because it obviously encroaches on that side yard setback. And that's basically it. Other than the fact that it doesn't impede on the neighborhood, the look of the neighborhood at all. You can barely see it from the street. It's so small, it's 34 square feet in nature, and I hope that the board can look at this for what it is and grant him a relaxation in the code.
All it faces is Pier Avenue, right?
Yeah, yeah. And it's actually covered by a lot of landscaping trees and whatnot.
Any other board members have any questions? Anyone out in the audience have any problems? You have your postings, you have your mailings?
Yeah.
You have an affidavit of posting?
Oh, I do, yeah, I apologize.
Okay, that's okay. I apologize.
I think I have it already.
I actually sent it in, but I brought it as
I
well.
do.
That's okay, we
I do
already
have
have it.
it.
Oh, thank you. All right, nobody else has anything to say about this? Okay.
I would like to say one last thing. I would like to say thank you to the board for being so gracious to me. I have an 18-year-old son who we brought into the business who kind of fumbled. This is his first thing that we asked him to do.
It was a moving letter that you sent in, I can tell you that.
Well, thank you. He's one of 6, to be quite honest with you, so,
God bless you.
He's a great kid. He felt really bad about it, and he thought that he caused his father some aggravation. And I just wanted to say thank you very much because you didn't have to do that, obviously, and I
Did you
appreciate
bring him
it.
here tonight?
I wanted to bring him here tonight.
You should have.
Be punished.
It would have been better for you guys to give it to him instead of me.
Okay. All right.
Okay, I move that the determination of Patricia Kalmar at 6 Smugglers Path, Jamesport, for the variances to and relief from provisions, Chapter 301, Section 9, subsection A16, where a deck exists 24.1 feet from the side street line, where the minimum required is 50 feet, be granted in accordance with the applications and sketches with amendments thereto, if any, as filed with the building inspector.
So moved.
Second?
All right, Mr. Whitmire.
Aye.
Ms. Worthington.
Aye.
Mr. Barnes.
Aye.
And I vote aye. And you tell your son the appeal has been granted and he's off the hook.
Will do.
All right, best of luck.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
appeal number 2017-18, Riverhead PGC LLC. Mr. Cuddy.
Good evening, Charles Cuddy for the applicant. Before I start, I'd like to hand out some designs that we have of the site. You might see it here. Here's slide one for you. As you recall, we've been here before, and we've presented plans before, but I think this plan should satisfy the board. I have with me, by the way, tonight, people from the management firm, which is Phillips International. We have also the engineers from VHB. We have the architect for the owner, and we also have architects from Regal, so that we can hopefully conclude this matter, which really basically is the height at this point of the theater. If you look at the design that's been given to you, you can see that the theater itself now, the high point is just in the front, which is 44.6 feet, or 6 inches. The rest of the front varies and tapers down to 41 to 38. If you go to the second page, you'll note that the rear is 41 and 40 feet. And when you get to the sides, both left and right, they taper from 42 feet down to 41 and then 38. The significance of that is that instead of that height, the actual height that we're talking about is less because there are parapets. The parapets that surround this site are 3 to 4 feet in height. As you know from the code, parapets are exempt from the height. So when we do that and you take the height that we actually have, you're talking about 37, 38, 39 feet. And as you know, the standard is 35. So what we're doing is we're saying that we have a height variance of between 10 and maybe 17%, which is not substantial. We also point out to you that we have reduced this in size significantly, and we don't have any more alternatives. This is the theater that's going to have 10 screens, going to have 1,490 seats. It's going to be 51,000 square feet. This is the building that we can build. This is the building that we can't reduce. You can't get all that inside a different building, and this building is very similar to the other theaters that have been talked about. I would also point out to you that besides not having really an alternative at this point, I think by reducing the height, we certainly have taken some of the problem of the impact upon the community and reduced that significantly. And since we're taking a building that's 71,000 square feet, reducing it to 51,000 square feet, environmentally, we also, I don't think, have an adverse effect. So I think at this point, looking at this, and we'll describe it a little bit more elaborately with Courtney Riley, who's from VHB, who will follow me. I would like to have the board then look at this and approve this particular site with this particular building. And introduce Courtney Riley.
Ms. Riley, you've already been sworn in, so off you go.
Good evening. So I'm going to go through our elevations, and as Charles has said, we've gone painstakingly to try to help and reduce the impact. We've been here on our third time here, and we're trying to listen, and we do listen, and we are hearing you. So first, we're going to talk about the front elevation. So as you see from the front elevation, one of the first things is stepping down the building, and you can see it here on the front. All right, so you have, we're going to say there's 3 segments. We have the center, our middle segment, and we have 2 segments on either side, and then a third segment on either side. So this center segment, which is the tallest, this middle segment is now 44 feet 6 inches. It was previously 49, and at the first hearing, 60 feet. The next one on either side, so here with red, gray on this side, okay? That is now down to 41 feet. Again, previously 46, and then 55 at our first hearing. On the last segments on either side, we are at 38 feet 2 inches. This side here is at closest to the residents on the east side of the property. And what we've done now is we've taken our actual roof height, which has been lowered to approximately 38 feet, and now this is also at the center line, which I'll show in the next slide, and it reduces down. So as we've taken the heights of everything and lowered it, not only the roof line, but also the parapets. So going to the next slide. So this is the rear. Again, the rear was at 55 feet at one point. At our previous hearing, it was at 44 feet. We are now down, as previous hearing, it was 44 feet. Now we're down to 41 feet and 40 feet. So here's your 41, these gray segments, and this is your 40. Okay. The east side. So this east side faces the residences. And when you take a look at this, it's a little deceiving because all these walls are shift in and out. So essentially this wall, this first wall that's right here, this is at 38 feet 2 inches. The next wall in, which is your theater walls, are approximately 40 feet. And then the highest wall, which is further in again, further west, is over your side entrance is at 42 feet. Previously, this entire side was at 55 feet. This is on the side that's in between the existing retail. This again is in between. I don't think it necessarily affects many of the neighbors. So what we have here is a regal cut through the building. So this is the building that you see, the footprint that you'll see on the site plan, and you have 3 sections. So again, this center section, a little bit higher. This is your second section that goes a little bit lower, and this on your residential side is that's at that 38. And you can see one of the other things that we did is we also lowered from the finished floor, and we went about 4 feet deeper to again lower the building as much as possible. So now those lower seats are sitting 4 feet below the finished floor to further reduce the building height. The last thing was all the equipment. You know, as you know, it's a movie theater, there is going to be some equipment. The equipment was moved to the center as much as possible. And the reason we do have these parapets is to block some of that equipment. You know, otherwise the building would just be about 38 feet in height. That's the roof. Now we put, you know, 6 to 8 foot high equipment on it, and we want to be able to block that. The parapets don't have to be 6 to 8 feet in height because as the building goes down, that roof height, as you can kind of see here, that top portion of the roof, that's where your 38 is, and then it goes at 1/4 inch per foot and grades down. Okay, so we got to pitch the roof away. Andrew, if you could just open up the site plan. So when you look at our site plan, you can see here we have our proposed movie theater. The existing building currently right now from this existing property line is at 38 feet. We've shifted the building over as far as possible. We've removed over 70,000 square feet of the existing Walmart, and now this is at 70 feet. So we're going from a building that's sitting 38 feet to now 70 feet. On the rear, this existing building actually used to protrude past where this is. So the existing building, which is now 49 feet off this back property line is over 100 feet, at almost 109 feet. So we've condensed the building as much as possible. We still have to have circulation, obviously, around it. We've lowered the building. We've set it into the finished floor. And we've also lowered the roof height. And with this concludes my presentation. If you have any questions, like we said, our architect is here as well as the Regal's architects.
No, I think you've done a pretty good job. All right, let's hear from any of the residents. Please, step up. Have you been sworn in before?
Yes.
And they state your name and your address.
My name is Dale Young, 125 Oliver Street, Riverhead, New York. Can I step over here?
You may.
If I'm correct, Courtney, this is Oliver Street here?
Yes.
This is the rear of the building? Now, can you switch it back? 'Cause these are the homes right here. These are the pine trees that we have. These are the parkland that you have here. Can you switch it back to the first? The whole screen.
Whole side.
Whole thing. The front of the building, the whole thing. There. We're over here. On this side.
Yep.
Look at a little tiny picture of my fingers. That's my home. So that's what I'm looking at, and you can understand my concern. And all the neighbors on Kings Drive, and all the neighbors on Oliver Street. So we're a little tiny piece right here. Looking at that. I appreciate everyone's effort, including the center, Courtney, Mr. Cuddy, everyone that I spoke to. I first came on April. Came in on April, discussed the situation as to what we're gonna have to look at. We didn't wanna see 60 feet. Asked if they could do something, and they've been very generous and very kind. They've come to the home. I have met with Courtney twice. I got a text from Carlos Vargas, who does landscaping. I've had a visit from Raymond Castrovano and his associate. I've had the survey crew come to my home. And as I say, I've met with Courtney twice. Spoke to Mr. Cuddy. So far, I'm impressed. I have to say that. I invited everyone when I came on April 13th, and I invited everyone to come into my home. Whether I'm there or not, come into my backyard and look at what we will be looking at, because 60 feet was overwhelming. I'm happier what we have right now, but I want you to be aware of what we will have to deal with, our impact. I invited the members to come, and just a show of hands as to how many of you actually came.
I've been there
Whether-
3 times, walking the neighborhood.
I was gonna say,
and-
whether we were there or not, because, we're all busy, we lead our lives, and I just was curious as to how many of you may have come. So thank you very much for taking an interest. I appreciate it. There are lots of things that we have to do, and I will be involved with the architectural review and with site plan. But thank you very much, and,
Now, let me ask you this. What would you want there?
I have no problem with the cinema coming in.
Okay.
I have a problem with the way it's going to impact our lives. Noise, and they're working real hard. I have to give it to them. They're working very hard, and I appreciate that. There are still some things that trash compactors right out my bedroom window. You know, we deal with it across the street. We deal with BJ's, and those trash compactors go all night long. And I don't want it right out my backyard. I'm what?
When did you buy your home?
1984. And my parents lived there in 1964. At that time, Walmart building was not there. They added on, and they brought the Walmart building over to us. I used to work there when it was Caldors. I used to walk through the fence, and I'd walk through the swamp that was there. And I'd go to work. But then they brought the Walmart building over to us. So it was far away from us, and it didn't impact our lives. So I just want you to understand why some of the neighbors are very upset, and I appreciate everything that everyone's doing, and I'm sure we'll work through all of this.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any other neighbors? Have you been sworn in before?
Yes, sir.
Then state your name and your address.
Mike Goodsell, 162 Kings Drive. I think my comments are actually minor, and I would happily cede the floor to anybody that's actually more impacted than I am. I am happier with this. I want, for the record, when I first received that and it said 60 feet, I think if it had said this, I would be here and concerned. I wouldn't be angry though. You know what I mean? I wouldn't have had, and there's a part of me that feels like a little duped, like, you know, somebody's, you know, they're over bargaining, and then, you know, I'm calling it what it is. They could have started there knowing that we live in a residence, and
Gotcha.
35 feet is what it's at now. So I think this is a starting point, not an end point, in my opinion. Having said that, I said when I spoke before, I love movies. I'm not terribly upset that there's, you know, I do like movies, you know what I mean? And I bought my home in 2011 when Walmart was there. So I just want, and I don't know, maybe I have two questions, and maybe you guys can answer it for me. One question is, I'm curious about what a variance is. Does that mean that, because this was one of my main concerns about the 60 foot. My main concern was what's going to happen 10 years from now. If this isn't there, did we just sign on to 60 foot and now there's going to be all kinds of stuff there? Or is the variance specific to this movie theater? Or are we basically changing the town code so that that is now the new height allowed there? Or is it specific to the movie theater?
It isn't 60 feet.
Huh?
Not 60 feet.
Well, I'm saying whatever we agree to here, the height that we agree to, is it specific to this movie theater? Or if the movie theater is no longer there, did we just raise the overall allowance there so now anything can be can be whatever height that is? Or is it only for this movie theater, and if that movie theater is no longer there, it goes back to 35?
I have to defer to my,
Variance is a relief valve as part of government and how the zoning code is written by the town board. And we're here to deal with specific sections of the code that doesn't always fit specific properties. So, in this case, they started at 60 feet, but however the code says that it's only allowed 35 feet. I believe that's the code at the moment. So, you have to have a relief valve for these types of situations. But it does keep it under control throughout. Variances granted to that property only does not create a precedent.
But if that's not a theater anymore, anything else could now be that height.
That becomes a pre-existing non-conforming structure. And if another use comes into play, then that would change. And they would have to probably get another variance for maybe other reasons.
Well, you can see I'm not really sure where that ends up. I'm not trying to blow this up. I'm just saying that was what was really my primary concern, because I got a soft spot for movies, but not for some apartment complex or something that's going to go back there. And I didn't want to sign on for a movie, and then 10 years when I go to sell my house, I got.
Don't worry about it. But that could change.
I also want it known that when they came and took the picture of my house, I asked it to be 2 houses down for somebody that might be more affected. they came to my house because I spoke at that previous meeting, and I just didn't want it that because I spoke and was in a convenient place, they chose mine because it didn't have the impact that other ones have, and I want it known that I did everything I could to get it 2 houses down, so that the things that showed up there weren't, the last one that was shown was my house. And I'm glad that they came, and I feel the same way, that they did come, and I did have a conversation with them, and it's not like I don't feel like I'm not being heard at all. But, so I do feel that they've heard. My only last concern, which may not, it probably doesn't have to do with this, but maybe you can tell me when the one shot that she showed of on Kings Drive that wasn't mine, to me looked pretty obvious that there's a change. You know, it's like there's a gigantic building there where there isn't right now, and the concern that I have there is the parking lot more than anything, to be honest, because for me, at the moment, Walmart's there, I see the top of the building, which is, by the way, only about 15 feet. It's not 35 feet where I'm at. It's about 15 feet, maybe 20, you know what I mean? So when we were talking 60, we were talking 3 times as much, but it's much smaller than so anyway. But from the back, I see Walmart, but Walmart goes back, right? And nobody's back there. You know, I'm not listening to somebody playing boom boom music coming by, and, you know, the young kids listening to whatever they're listening to. I'm not listening to that. You know, nobody goes back there unless they're doing something they shouldn't be doing, in which case it was nice previously when Walmart was there, and there was some kind of security, and I knew somebody wasn't sitting there doing drugs in the back or something like that and throwing their crap over onto my lawn. So for me, at this point, I get the height. It's a movie theater. For me, this is for me, and I totally get other people's concerns but for me right now, it's patrolling that area, because, you know, the guy, I don't remember who, but he came, and, you know, you could see there's Corona bottles in my back, and, you know what I mean? And nothing's going on there right now, you know what I mean? So, you know, it was nice knowing that there was somebody patrolling that area, one, and I'm a little concerned about driving by and seeing a parking lot. I mean, as bad as a wall is, to some degree, at night, if somebody's back there playing their, you know, driving up in their, you know, people don't care. They don't even, they're gonna be at a movie, they're not even thinking that neighbors are nearby. So and also just the overall, you know, blocking the litter that does come over the fence, and just, and one more thing and then I'll be done, but I wanna go back to the whole 60-foot thing. This is why I'm concerned about that, because the whole idea of kinda trying to get as much as you can and then back up so that the residents can feel like they got something makes me feel like, do they really, like, what are they doing that makes me go, oh yay, this movie, they're improving the neighborhood, and I would like to see a little bit more of that. Like, what are they doing to actually kind of make me feel like, you know, happy rather than, okay, it's not going to be a horrible thing, you know what I mean? So that's really.
Well, I mean, my impression is the building's gonna be reduced by 20,000 square feet, and it's gonna be set back further from the Kings Drive residence.
Right.
109 feet is a bargain, and I would take it.
I get that.
But the things that you're concerned with, parking, the things that Young is uncomfortable with, the trash compactors, that has to be dealt through with site plan. The only thing we're hearing tonight is the height of the front of the building. And I think.
When is that meeting? Like, when are those relevant?
They posted in the newspaper.
Is that here, or is it somewhere else?
No,
It'll be here, it'll be dealt with the planning board.
But will we get something in the mail for that as well?
No, you typically don't, but it will be posted and you can watch out for the legals. And I'm quite sure I should give you a call. Right, Dal?
I need to know.
What's your number, pal? Most people have it already.
Can I ask a quick question that I?
You can stand up to the microphone and ask any question.
Thanks. When Courtney came to my home, I had asked her about the noise from inside the movie theater emanating outside. Like when you drive down, you're in your house and the kids go by with their car and you hear the. Am I going to hear that in my house?
Where I live.
I would hope
And
not.
if somebody is here
Usually that's self-contained, but let's ask.
But if
him.
that's why I wanted to ask now, if someone is
ask.
here and they can verify and tell us that we're not gonna have to listen to that muffled sound,
No, 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 no.
come
You
on
have
up.
to step up to the microphone if you're gonna say.
thank you.
Kindly raise your right hand. You swear to tell the truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Yes, I do.
Just state your name and your address.
Paul Georges, 138 Virginia Avenue, Audubon, New Jersey.
And who are you?
I am Regal's architect, JKRP Architects, located in Center City, Philadelphia.
Then we got the right guy to answer the right question. Go get him.
It's very important to Regal. I mean, we have a lot of experience designing, building theaters for Regal Entertainment Group, and they are very sensitive to the impact their buildings have on the neighborhoods, because it's just as important to you to not to have to hear sound coming out of the building. It's equally important to them not to have sound coming into the auditoriums. So I completely understand your concerns, and we go to a lot of painstaking effort to make sure that those auditoriums are acoustically isolated from the outside, not only from each other, but from the outside environment. So it is something that we take very seriously. We have acoustical engineers involved in the design process, and you know, it's certainly something that we will address and make sure that we address for you.
So keep the jukebox down there, Mrs. Young.
Turn it up.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anyone else be heard? All right, let's move forward. Is there a decision?
This one lady wants to speak.
Oh, well, please step up. You kindly raise your right hand. You swear to tell the truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God. State your name and your address.
My name is Jean Bals, 140 Kings Drive.
Gotta pull that
Speak
mic
into the
up.
microphone.
140 Kings Drive. I have two concerns. Number one is location. And what this movie theater with 1,490 seats will do to the traffic on 58. And how many cars do you think expecting for one move for 10 those auditoriums to come at once? 200, 300, 500? And others have to get out. And here is the hospital. There are sirens every day going on. It will be very good disservice to the community. And when people get jammed into the traffic, they will turn, this movie theater, monster movie theater, will turn them away. Sometimes less is more. Location is wrong for this movie. It shouldn't be here. Number two, height. If other movies in Suffolk County, Ronkonkoma or elsewhere, 34, 32, 30, you know, around that. So why this one has to be higher? 44, 41, 38. We live in the back, so we'll have all that beauty of the wall, 90 feet long and 40, you see 41 we'll see in the back. If the limit is 35, why this movie has to be so much higher? Can somebody answer?
Yeah, they were talking about having the air conditioning, the other units up on the roof.
On the
They need
roof.
to be shielded so you don't hear the noise from those machines.
We shall not hear noise.
You will not hear?
Residents will not hear.
Don't see 'em.
No.
As far as the cars and
Yeah.
the problems with Route 58, that's something for the planning board. That is not in front of us.
It's a wrong location to
Wrong-
begin with.
Well, it's the wrong location, but it's the wrong place too.
Wrong
You have to
place.
speak to,
I know.
you have to speak to the planning about
So
that.
these are my main concerns,
Okay.
location and height. Thank you very much.
Your question? Is there anyone else who would like to speak? Please step up. And have you been sworn in before? Well then, pull the microphone down in front of you and You swear to tell the truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Yes,
Please state your name and your address.
Lana Anker, and I'm a Florida resident, but I have a property on Ostrander Avenue. And I have looked at the shopping center, and I think it's a good location. I think it's something that's positive for this end of town. It's been vacant, and a lot of town is moving towards the end of the expressway. Home Goods is moving, Marshall's is moving. I don't want to see an empty shopping center. It's a weak shopping center now with a relatively small supermarket in it. And I'm not directly impacted like the people that live on Oliver Avenue, Oliver Street, or on Kings Drive. But I think that Regal is a substantial company. I think that hopefully, if this goes through, the corporation that owns the parking lot will maintain their entrances a little bit better and spruce up a little bit better. And I think it's better than having vacant area for a very long time. It's been vacant and it's going to get run down, and I just think that's not a healthy situation for town.
Well, thank you, Ms. Zanker. Anyone else to be heard? Okay, let's hear a motion. We'll have a reserved decision next meeting.
So moved.
Second.
I move to close this meeting, and you have 10 days from now to express your feelings in letters. And send it to the zoning board, care of the town of Riverhead. Okay, so, pardon? Yeah. So we have a second. Mr. Whitmire?
Aye.
Ms. Worthington?
Aye.
Mr. Barnes? Aye. And I vote aye. So the next meeting, we'll have a reserved decision. Thank you very much. Yes.
I was late in traffic. Was there a decision on the computer
It
fence?
was granted.
It was granted. Was there any discussion or explanation?
With condition.
With
What are the
condition.
may I know? Just, I took the drive out here. Sorry.
It's okay. Yeah, but can you make a copy of them?
Do you have the right?
And that's a final decision?
Yes, ma'am.
It's not considered final until it's been signed off, but as soon as it is, we can give you.
Can I take it away?
You bet. Good.
Yes? Thank you. Good night.
You're welcome. Good night. Folks, you have to take it outside. We have other hearings, so please step outside. Thank you very much.
That's your connector there.
Okay.
And I put the rest of it back.
Thank you.
That's good.
That's all now.
So we have appeal number 17-29. Sea Cove, Lane, Jamesport. Mr. Cuddy.
There's 5 of you. Great.
Thank you.
Good evening. I appear again on behalf of Mr. Mangini, contract vendee. When we were here last time, the concern was that the Conservation Advisory Council had indicated in its resolution that we should be even with the other houses that were at that site. Mr. Corwin has put on his map that I just gave you the distances back from the property line. And you will note that the adjoining houses are 42 and 40 feet respectively. Actually, this house, the proposed house at this site, lot number 6, is 48 feet back at one point and 44 feet back at the other point. It's further back than the adjoining houses. And that was the question that was asked. It is back further. It meets the resolution of the Conservation Advisory Council. I again point out to you that we have DEC approval and Conservation Advisory approval, and I would ask the board
What's the square footage of the house, Mr.?
The square footage of the first floor is 1,600 feet. I'm sorry, 1,864 feet. The total footage of the house is 2,400.
2,400?
Yes.
We've been down here a couple times, that's for sure.
We appreciate the stakes that were put out for us.
He just got to it. It took him a while, but
I was there
he did
today.
it. Yeah.
All right, anyone else to be heard on this matter? You want to step up? You've been sworn in. State your name and your address.
My name is Michael Millard. I live at 72 Sea Cove Lane. I was sworn in last week. So I've not seen any of these maps. I've walked the property, so the neighbors walked the property. And I guess you could probably find one part of the curve that it may be 40 feet, but it is a cul-de-sac. So if you measure it from the majority of the frontage of that property, it is roughly 25 feet. So that's a little bit of a cherry picking. So I put together a letter and I sent it around to, may I? Thank you.
I think it would be a little more helpful to you.
That would be great. There we go. The area that you're saying is 48 is this curve here.
Yeah, I think you have to speak on the mic for the record.
For the record.
But everybody has a copy of this up here.
So, for the record, the area on this map that I'm looking at that is 48 feet is the very far end of the property. The majority of the cul-de-sac is 25 feet. In fact, if you did go there today, you would have seen a white sign posting your meeting. That's where the stoop would be, all right? And the stairs would be on this structure. So I put a letter together, or I should say my wife put the letter together. She's the smart one in the family. And we went around to our neighbors, and I would say that I can give you emails that they've all agreed with this. And these are the people that live on either side of this property, people directly across from it, the people next to them directly across from that, people next to them directly across it, and the people on the other side directly across. It's a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different houses all agree with what I'm about to say to you. All right? So this letter is to reference the request for a variance for the zoning laws of 68 Sea Cove Lane. The applicant for the variance is a prospective buyer with a purchase contract for the referenced land. The contract for sale is contingent upon receiving a building permit. Sea Cove Lane is a lovely, well-kept community in Jamesport. There are 17 homes that are privileged to be there. Each home has a minimum of 40 feet setback, with most having a setback even further back, some in 60 and 80 feet back from the curb. In fact, the other homes on the cul-de-sac have a minimum of 50 feet, with 2 of them being 60, 80, and 1 at 100 feet back from the curb. the wetlands are not unique, as was brought up at the last meeting, are not unique to Lot 6. This community is surrounded on 2 of its 4 sides by wetlands. So this is not the only lot that has a wetland issue. Some other basic facts about the community. The average home out of the 17 homes is 2,344 square feet. The contention that was suggested that we're only going to build a very small house is just simply not correct. It's actually larger than the average house. In fact, it would be the 6th largest out of 17 houses in that community. You can go on the same place I looked and you can get the square footage of each and every one of the houses. I am under oath. I don't take that lightly. There are actually 7 houses that are at 2,000 or less square feet. Many of these houses had the same exact issue, where they had to live by the 40-foot setback. As a result, we have homes that are 1,500 square feet, 1,700 square feet, 1,800 square feet. And it just seems odd that all of these people would have to live by the rules. But for this lot, which by the way is the smallest lot, it's about this, actually to be factual, it's the 3rd smallest lot in the entire community. When you take out the permanent easement that was granted by the owner of the lot, it is by far the smallest lot in the community. So I'm trying to understand the logic here. I'm all for having great neighbors, and I'm all for being able to let somebody build something if it's appropriate. But I can't understand why would you want to agree to build the 6th largest house in a community of 70 people, 17 other houses, on the absolute smallest lot, when over 1/3 of the houses in the community on larger lots with the same wetlands limited themselves to 1,500, 1,600, and 1,700 square foot pieces of property. Now, I'm new to this, but I always assumed that one of the purposes of a zoning board was to make sure that people don't overbuild on small lots. And that appears to be exactly what's happening here. Now, no one is in a financial risk here. Correct me if I'm wrong. Right? They have a contract to buy this property based on whether they can get a permit or not. There has been a number of other architects and a number of the people that have looked at this house over the last 4.5 years that it's been for sale. They have all walked away shaking their heads saying, there's no way I can fit something on this land. So this is not the first one, okay? This is not the first person that has come with this struggle. The owner of the property made the decision to put the permanent easement there, right? So when he built the big extension on the house that I ultimately ended up buying. So it just, I guess that's all I really have to say. You know,
Okay.
we believe that they should have a right to build a house. We'd love to see them build a 2,000 square foot house, is what we're saying. And if they can do that at 40 feet, great. If they could do it at 35 feet, and it has to be 35 feet, because that's how you could squeeze in a 2,000 square foot house, we would be okay with that. Absolute worst case scenario, if it has to be 30 feet, when everyone else is at 40, to fit in a 2,000 square foot house, we would agree with that, at least the 7 people that I'm representing here. But to just arbitrarily say, we're gonna make this, you know, we wanna build a 2,500 square foot house on the absolute smallest lot on the property. Okay,
This map was filed in '78.
okay,
This is a buildable lot, held in single and separate ownership. So they have a right to build them.
Um,
The house, under Mr. Cuddy's comments, he said it was 1,840 square feet with a 2-car garage.
no, I think he said 2,400 square feet.
2,400 square feet.
Total is 2,400.
Right.
What's the living area, Charles?
Total area is 2,400.
I heard you. What is the living area?
The living area is somewhat less because of the garage. I don't have the garage now.
Okay, so if we exclude the garage, is it a 2-car or 1-car?
It's a 2-car garage.
So if we exclude the 2-car garage, how many livable square feet is the house?
It's gonna be less than.
It's around 18 and change?
It's gonna be less than 2,000 square.
So it's less than 2,000
Okay, so
square feet.
what I don't know is when I looked at all the square footage, whether they were quoting livable or they were quoting the square footage of the house.
Yeah, that's what you have to really find out, because the houses in there are quite large. There's a couple of the houses in there that are small, which I think they'll fit in the neighborhood, but they will build. And then there's some other beautiful homes in there that are way over 2,000 square feet.
And I would argue that they're beautiful because they all have great front lawns that they take care of, and
Okay.
this would be right up on the street.
Let me finish what I have to say.
Sure.
Because I have somewhat experience in tidal wetlands and dealing with the DEC, the tidal wetlands change, the boundaries change over a period of time. So when this map was done back in 1978, there may have been less tidal wetlands behind them as they're flagged by professionals, flagged. I don't know what the edge of the wetland map was back in 1978. But with that consideration, the rear yard would be larger. This particular case, this guy only has, I don't know, a rear yard of where he can't touch anything of, let's say 24 feet. From the edge of his garage to the tidal wetland, where he's not allowed to do a darn thing in that area, in that natural undisturbed buffer area. So that has changed over the years. So when you say we all conform to 40 feet, in this particular case, I believe that the wetlands have encroached upon this property. That's just my opinion.
And
It's
so
not
let me,
based on fact and what I'm looking at right
that's fair. So I would ask the following questions.
So
If
I
the
think
wetlands
the
encroached
house being-
another 10 feet, would that mean that the lot would still be buildable? Would they
It's a
now be able to build?
buildable lot, period. It's buildable. Under the law, it's been held in single and separate ownership. They have a right to build a house.
At 30 feet, or at 40 feet, not,
No, they have a right to, if they get a variance from us, they'll have a right to build it. With the consideration, understanding that the wetland is restricting their ability to go back further. I don't know about you, but I wouldn't want 22 feet for a backyard.
so you understand, there are homes in our community, right, that have literally no backyard because of the wetlands.
I can understand that, but they chose to do that. And
They
had a
chose
right.
to live by the rule that we have of a 40-foot
So,
setback.
Are you telling me that nobody got a variance in there for a setback? No one.
To my knowledge, Jim, did anyone get a setback variance? You've been there for forever. A setback variance, other than the one that was granted to this lot at 30 feet? Anyone?
I bet you they were. I'll put some money on it.
I'll take that bet,
Okay.
as I live there, and there's no house that's less than 40
And how
feet
big
from
is
the
your
street.
house? How many square feet is your house?
My house is like 3,000.
Okay.
I'm next door,
You're next door, okay.
and a lot that's twice the size of that.
Okay, I get it. All right. Well, I heard what you had to say. You made some very good points. I hope I made some good points. But we can move on to the next person who'd like to speak. Is that okay, Mr. Chairman?
That's fine. Cuddy, you're up.
I guess I'm a little surprised that Mr. Millard, who lives next door, and who actually marked this off with me the day I came to put the sign up, and said to me, if it was beyond the other houses, he was completely satisfied, has somehow has now changed his mind. We had that conversation the day I posted the property. But what bothers me most of all about his concern is he ignores completely that it's on a cul-de-sac. It's on a cul-de-sac. This is the same map, the exact same house that was seen by the DEC, the exact same house that was seen by the Conservation Advisory Council. And the Conservation Advisory Council said exactly what we're here for, and that is that the house should be at least equal, if not further back, and it's further back. And so we are abiding by what the Conservation Advisory Council said. We are on a cul-de-sac, and as Mr. Barnes pointed out, we have a real difficulty because of the DEC wetland. We can't go back any further. Having a backyard of 23, 24 feet is hardly accommodating. The fact that people are upset that houses are bigger or smaller is, I don't think, part of this concern of this board. The question is, can we be back where we should be? And I'm saying to you that 25 feet is certainly an adequate amount based upon the layout of this property. And to ignore the fact of the cul-de-sac is hard to believe, but that's what's being done. And I ask that it be approved just as it's been said here and just as the CAC approved it. And we've done exactly what the board has asked us to do. We've shown where the house is. This house is not large by any means. Thank you.
It's a 20,000 square foot lot. The build is half acre, but yet it's very restricted based on the wetlands. And if that was a concern back in 1978, which it should have been a concern for the developer, maybe they should have left that as one of the natural park, as they do in other subdivisions. However, it was approved by the planning board in 1970s, and still today exists as an approved building lot, as long as it was held in a single and separate ownership. 1,840 square foot house, I don't think it's a big house. I lived in an 1,850 square foot house, a little tight. Two-car garage, I couldn't imagine being without a two-car garage myself personally. And I'm in a very similar situation. I have an acre and a quarter, and I live on a pond. And I'm restricted as well. I only have 22-foot rear yard, but I like it the way it is. And I hope all the neighbors like these new people that are gonna come in and move here. I don't know if 5 feet back, a smaller layout of 1,500 square feet as opposed to 1,800 square feet, is that really gonna make everybody happy? I don't think so. People just don't like change. I remember when I built my house and I was cutting trees down, oh my God, people were upset. But I think once it's built and it's landscaped, you'll have a good neighbor, and I hope it's a good neighbor. I don't know the particular person who's buying it. But it's certainly a great neighborhood, and as you said, it's a privilege to live in that community. I would have loved to live there myself.
Sir,
I'm done
with all due
speaking.
respect, with all due respect, that's a very eloquent speech. The difference is that I have 7 neighbors who do believe it should be 30 feet back.
Okay.
So they do believe that, and they want to be on record that they're willing to make a variance from 40 to 30, but not to 25.
Are they gonna speak to me?
Pardon me?
Are they here or?
No, but I have an email from each and every one of them if you want me to send it to give me the ability to make that representation.
Well, I believe the board is prepared to vote on this tonight. I don't know how much longer these people have to wait to start their home. I think we've heard everybody's concerns. I can't see trying to move the house back any further with a 23-foot rear yard. That's all you can have in your backyard. That's a little tight. So I myself am prepared to vote yes for it. I can't speak for the other members, but that's where I stand.
Is there anyone else to be heard on this matter? Except for me.
Okay. I move that the determination of 68 Seacove Lane, Jamesport, for variance to and/or from relief from provisions of Chapter 301, Section 17, where the proposed front yard setback is 25 feet, where the minimum is 40, be approved in accordance with the applications and sketches with amendments thereto, if any, as filed with the building inspector.
Second.
Mr. Whitmire?
Aye.
Mr. Barnes?
Aye.
Ms. Worthington?
Aye.
And I vote aye. So the appeal has been granted. Mr. Cuddy, you know the process from now on. Thank you very much. And thank everyone for their time.
I figured since you're still sitting.
All by ourselves.
Okay.
Finally, we have appeal number 2017-30 for James Farley of 58 South Jamesport Ave in Jamesport for variances to and/or relief from the provisions of Chapter where the minimum required is 55 feet, and from the provisions of Chapter 301, Section 222B, where the application represents a change from one pre-existing non-conforming use to another non-conforming use requiring a special exception, which a two-family dwelling is proposed to be converted to a single-family dwelling, and the construction of a new single-family dwelling is proposed, resulting in two detached single-family dwellings on the subject parcel.
Mr. Cuddy, you're taking Mr. Danowski's place for 3 in a row.
It's a state record.
Hopefully not too often, but,
Go ahead, Mr. Cuddy, you got the floor.
okay. This is a site in South Jamesport in the historic landmark district, actually. And it now has a two-family house with a pre-existing CO. And the proposal that's being made by Mr. Farley, who is right here, is to take that two-family house, which is somewhat difficult to use as a two-family house, which he'll explain to you, and make it a one-family house, and use a garage that's at the far end of the site, which is on Point Street, which is a garage that's really a two-story garage, and convert that into a one-family house, so then there would be a two-family lot, but there'd be two homes instead of a two-family house. The reason he's doing it is there's an old garage. Anybody who's been there will see there's a 20 by 32-foot garage that's going to be taken down and replaced by the same exact size building for a residence. The unusual thing about it is that the Point Street is a street that has water, electricity, other houses on it. So the yield that we're getting out of this site is going to be exactly the same. There's going to be two families on it. There are two families there now. And there really isn't going to be a significant change. And if you look, I'll give you a copy of the tax map. But the tax map shows that surrounding this area, within 200 feet of it, are 7 lots that are exactly the same size as this lot if you divide it in half. So we're not making a yield change for that neighborhood at all. I would like to address, I think, the question of the setbacks. Mr. Farley, I think, will talk about the special exception, because what we're asking the board to do is to take a non-conforming use and change it. And to do that, we come before your board for a special exception. But just briefly talking about the setbacks. The setbacks here, when you look at the map, are the very same setbacks that exist now, except actually we're a little better off. The setbacks now are very small on the south side. It's 2.6 feet. We're going to have much more than that. And by the way, the notice states that both side yards are 8.3. That's incorrect. Both side yards together with the new the new home being placed there will be 30 feet. It'll be 5 and 25. So it's not 8.3 where you have two side yards. But more importantly, the existing setback is 17.4. We're going to have an 18-foot setback. As I said, the side yard is 2.6. We're going to have a 5.0 side yard. So the setbacks really are no different than in the existing building. So there's no one that's being hurt by the type of setbacks proposed. And of course, the problem with these setbacks is that we're in an R40 district, and the town has no change that they've made to the code, so we have a difficult problem anytime you go to South Jamesport, because the lots are small and the ordinance is at an R40 and some places an R80. I would like to point out to you something else that I think is important, and that is that around this site there are other units of residents that are essentially multiple type units. To the south is the Seabreeze restaurant and a site that has 6 apartments in it, or with 6 units, residential units. At the far end of that, just below Mr. Farley's home, there's another residential building. So the site right next to him has 2 residences essentially on that site. I'd like to give you the maps that we had talked about earlier to show you that the areas around him have the same size lots that this would be divided into if it was a subdivision at this point. So we have lots that are essentially 5,000 square feet, and there are multiple lots that are like that. So I just want to hand that out. I just made little blue marks on those maps to show where the lots are exactly the same size as the lot that we're talking about here. So if you took 2 of those lots together, you would have the same thing that Mr. Farley is proposing for his lot as far as the yield goes. I don't think that there's any question that this is going to affect the environment adversely, because it's a building, we're trading a building for a building. The alternative is to keep an old house that really doesn't work for 2 families as a 2-family house. I would point out to you that, as far as I know, none of the neighbors are concerned, in fact, have endorsed this proposal because it makes the lot a better-looking lot. The garage that's there now is somewhat dilapidated, so it's a much better situation to have a new building there than an old building. I think that Mr. Farley would like to address several points, but in particular, he'd like to address the special exception from moving from the 2-story to the 1 house and a second smaller house.
Step up, Mr. Farley. And if you kindly raise your right hand, do you swear to tell the truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Please state your name and your address.
James Farley, 58 South Jamesport Avenue, South Jamesport.
And you live there right now?
Yes, I'm a full-time resident there now.
Thank you.
There's quite a bit of background in the attachment to the application regarding the property and that, and I'll just talk to the points that Charlotte asked me to talk to, which was the exception. I'm new at this, so basically my outlook.
You're doing fine.
My outlook as to what the special exception is all about and what needs to be considered, I basically lifted that from some summary somewhere. So let's see if I cover all the points. I guess in summary, the first thing is I don't think what we're proposing is going to prevent an orderly or reasonable use of adjacent properties. As a matter of fact, our whole approach to this is to make it almost unnoticeable, in effect, outside of the movement of the building. We don't think we'll harm any existing uses or legally established uses in the district, and we don't think we'll adversely affect any safety, health, welfare, or comfort issues as well in the district. If I understand the list of considerations that might go into this, the first one that came to mind was the character of the existing and probable development of uses in the district and its peculiar suitability for the area. I think Mr. Cuddy mentioned it a bit earlier, but the character of the neighborhood has been cast the way it is, I think, for a long, long time. We bought the house some 35, 36 years ago when it was the Veterans Home. And what we're trying to do now, I think in large part with Richard Wine's effort to create the landmark district in that, is to restore and preserve this house that we live in. And that is our goal, to live in it. The house has been rented out on a long-term basis the entire time. It's been basically sliced in half because the house is designed with 2 staircases. It's got a back staircase, old-fashioned back staircase, and a front staircase. So that gave the upstairs tenant back and front access, if you will. But in terms of trying to restore the house, we think we need to try to approach it differently and make the application tonight. But we think that what we're trying to do is completely suitable for the neighborhood. Secondly, I think we're trying to conserve property values, if not improve them. It's a sticking point for us and not a particular point for the board tonight, but we live across the street on South Jamesport Avenue from a building that has essentially been abandoned for the 35 years we've owned our home. As a matter of fact, it's in a state of dilapidation, well, I believe that might be the name of the owner. I've only met him once many, many years ago when he stopped by. But putting that aside, and we bought the home when it was next door to the Veterans Home, which at that time, you probably also recall, Mr. Barnes, that that wasn't such a pleasant neighborhood in that respect. But once you got to know them, they were harmless and they were a pretty friendly bunch.
We veterans have gotten a little bit better over the years.
Well, I'm thinking of some particular veterans who lived there at the time. We don't think will affect traffic congestion at all, simply because it'll still be the same two-family use of the property as it always been. As a matter of fact, we're going to improve the parking area, as noted on the diagrams. We don't think we'll have an issue with sewage treatment whatsoever. As a matter of fact, we will have to replace the existing septic system. It's I don't know how many generations behind us today, and we've just finished the design for the new nitrogen removal system that's been supported by the county. So we're intending to install one of those as well. We won't have any we won't have any disturbing emissions like dust, light, vibration, or noise is resulting from this, although we live next door to that with the inn. We will not cause any undue interference with any orderly enjoyment of any public facilities in the nearby area. There is a park just half a block away from us there, but this won't impact that at all. We won't be putting any asphalt or any concrete down on the surfaces. It'll be a porous type of parking area. We actually think we're going to improve health and safety by having the second family in the separate building. We think that'll actually be better, and that home, once done, will be much more efficient energy and so forth. We don't think we're going to create any overcrowding of the land or an undue concentration of the population, in that it will be the same. The plot area is sufficient in our view because we're going to use the existing footprint of the existing building, although we'd like you to agree to moving it away from the Bay Breeze boundary line. The topography will not affect us at all in this plan, and we're not near any church or school or anything like that that could somehow impact it as well. So it's a sort of in my view, I think talking to Mr. Cuddy about it as well, we're sort of a very special, unique situation with this two-family certificate of occupancy. We think this proposed use would be much better, value creating, helping to preserve the old home, and we'd hope that the board could see their way to giving us the opportunity to do this.
Did you say you've been living in the house now?
I'm living in the house, yes.
And you've had it rented how many years?
The entire time we've owned it.
So you've always had a second apartment in there, and there's people living in the house with
Yes, yes.
And they access it through Point Street?
I beg your pardon? I didn't hear that.
Do they access their apartment through Point Street?
No, at the moment, well, they could do from either, because they can park the car on the Point Street side of the property where we would park, and they could come through the backyard, and there's a door up to the apartment from the backside, but there's also a door on the front side of the
Where
house.
has your tenant been parking all this
Beg your
time?
pardon?
Where does your tenant park?
They would park in the back.
So they have parked in the back?
They have parked in the back, yes.
You have a tenant now?
Right now, we're just in the throes of renovation, so there is an existing lease, but the tenant agreed to move out while we do the renovations.
Okay. And what kind of renovations are you doing?
Well, basically, we're trying to renew everything. You know, everything is just very, very dated.
So you're updating the inside?
Exactly, and actually, I would say, actually more so than that, we're renovating. In that sense, we sort of have a rule, I think it's fair to say. We have a rule that we don't try to replace anything if it can be used again. So all of the existing floors have now been completely redone. We have the old, front of the house is 1820, so we have the old wide-board pine floors. All the old lath and plaster walls are being preserved where possible. All the woodwork's been redone. We've tried to rewire where necessary. We've had a lot of BX cable, the old metal stuff taken out. So in general, everything's trying to be an upgrade and try to, You know, there's a word in historic house preservation called remodeling, and so we're trying to basically peel back the remodeling. But, you know, we have things like a second kitchen upstairs, of course, and all that sort of stuff needs to be redone.
So you're gonna replace that second kitchen?
Well, actually, if the board was to give us permission to do what we'd like to do, we'll take that kitchen out, and that'll become a utility room in effect.
Okay. I'm never satisfied. But tonight, I'm okay, but I think we need to.
Well, it's all good and, well and good what you say, Mr. Farley, but if there's anyone out in the audience that has a problem with this, if they'd step up.
Probably the wife.
It was his idea.
I guess you're okay.
She's doing all the painting, so.
I just wanted to add one thing.
Sure, Mr.
Besides,
Cuddy.
I think being a somewhat unique situation, that you can have at this site an accessory apartment. So while we couldn't have the same size building, we could build a 650 square foot building or use the garage, the old garage, as an accessory apartment.
Right.
So we could have exactly the same thing, except a little bit smaller. He's just asking for something a little bit
I
larger.
understand, Mr. Cuddy, but that's also a special permit of the town board.
I,
know you
I,
don't want-
I understand, but we could, I'm saying
wanna
it
go in that
could be there, okay. Thank you.
However, we have to discuss that issue because there may be a situation where legal counsel may think that this may be a special permit and not a special exception. But that's not for me to judge.
So you wanna hold this over to
The building inspector thought it was this.
I see what he thought.
Yeah.
Very good. We have to have this discussion.
We have to have our attorney look at we don't have an attorney tonight.
Okay,
Let him look at it, but I think the board is pretty much in favor of everything, so.
okay. I should
We
also
don't
add,
wanna- We wanna tell you, you have it, but
okay.
we'd like to have our attorney just look at everything.
I also should just point out that I've also taken the design to Mr. Wines, so he's comfortable with it as well.
Okay, so we're not gonna close the hearing. If anybody else, anything else to say?
Okay.
Next meeting, we're gonna adjourn it to the next meeting.
All right.
June eighth?
Thanks very much. June 8th.
June eighth.
So you want to give them a little more time.
You need any more time than June eighth, or that's good for you folks?
That's fine.
June eighth, okay. Who's got it?
Mr. Chairman, I respectfully move that appeal number 2017-030 be adjourned to June 8th, 2017.
Second.
Mr. Whitmire?
Aye.
Mr. Vaughn?
Aye.
Ms. Worthington?
Aye.
And I vote aye. So you see you folks next meeting,
Okay.
and, good luck.
Thank you. Have a good night.
You too.
I have to go myself.
Do I hear a motion to accept the minutes of the previous meeting?
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Meeting's accepted. Minutes accepted.
Chairman, I respectfully move that the meeting be adjourned.
All in favor?
Excuse me, closed.
All, do I have a
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Emily, you did a great job.
Thank
As
you.
always.
Good job, Emily.
I do try.
You going to Lambertville?
Better.
Yes.
50 lashes.
Thank you, Melissa. Close to the end of the year.